going to pause, and I'm going to ask for an indulgence. Sometimes the story behind the story is greater than the story. So you just saw this dramatic scene, and you saw Reg Houston as Zadok. That was the same man that, as a young boy, when I was 9, 10 years old, I sang the role of Amal and the Night Visitors. And in this opera, there's a crippled boy. He has but a crutch. A widow is his mother, and they have nothing to eat. And Reg was one of the 3 kings on his way to find the Christ child. And they stop in Amal's village. And the mother, seeing all of the gold that's available, just says, oh, if I could have just one piece of this gold for my child. And she goes to reach for my child, for my child, for my child. Thief! She's caught. And then when Reg and the other kings explain that this child doesn't need this gold, and she says, oh, I wish I had a gift to give to this child, but I have nothing. And Amal says, but mother, let me give him my crutch. Who knows? He may need one, and this I made myself. But you can't, she says. I walk, mother. Well, every night on that stage, I felt that miracle, the same miracles that Artaban is bringing to this village in tyranny. And I said to my father and my mother, who prepared me for that role, I was so transformed by the healing I felt as Amal. I said, Daddy, we need to write to the composer. We need to ask him to write 2 more operas. If Amal is the crutch, then we should have Amal going to visit the Christ child at the crèche. And then what's the 3rd C going to be? Amal at the cross, right? Well, John Carlo never answered. But I did vow and said, I, Daddy, am going to write this opera one day. Now, as a child, Del Monte Beach was a place where Dad and I spent a lot of time. And Dad was a passionate man, as you can imagine, and probably one of the most deeply religious and spiritual men in his own way. But he had a period where he didn't know what he believed, kind of an agnostic. And we would have these long arguments and discussions on the beach. Well, I get to high school, and during high school, I actually wrote that recitative and aria that you heard me sing in the beginning in the character of Gabriel. But I didn't get any further than that. Now, fast forward a little bit, and I'm in college. And I'm at college after being in a boarding school. By the way, thank you to all the sisters, and I think Sister Claire and Sister Christine are here. Yes, well, I was one of the first class of boys to graduate from Sada Catalina. Thank you. And I made my way to Woodside Priory School, and I was very active in all the things I was doing, and I was burnt out after high school. So I made my way all the way over to a school where I was going to meet this gentleman over here, Phil Kovitz. Phil and I were on the fencing team. Those of you that may not know, I was a competitive fencer. And I was burnt out. Phil can talk about those days early in school. I was doing okay class-wise, but I just did not want to be there. And I was very homesick, and I was very overwhelmed by everything going on. And I said, Phil, I want to go home. I'm done. I don't want to be here in school on the East Coast. And he used to cheer me up because we'd go into the music hall, and we would sing music and play music together. So you can see how things are full circle here. My parents did what they know how to do best, which is what this is all about, the power and the transformation of love, love that first comes from our great and gracious God. And they said, I set to music for orchestra your beginning of the opera. Come and sing it with us. I said, really, Daddy, really? So there I flew back in early November or so, at the beginning of December before exams, and stood by my father's side with a full orchestra singing that opening recitative and aria that you hear. And you can imagine how transformative that experience of a father and son sharing something that they co-created together. Well, guess what? I never looked back. I went back to Brandeis, I finished my exams, and I never questioned again whether I belonged there or not. Now, let's fast forward again. I am married, and I'm living in Boston, and I've now moved to California. And it's around Memorial Day, and I'm taking my wife, Cindy, to Yosemite for the first time. And we're in the car. And she's driving, and it's a beautiful sunny day, just barely a cloud in the sky. And I'm praying, I'm saying, you know, dear Lord, I want to know that Daddy's going to be okay, that you're going to take him in your arms no matter what. And I was really feeling this and praying this in the car. And Cindy's here, and afterwards at the reception, please ask her. But out of nowhere, a rainbow in the sky. And I start bawling. Absolutely bawling. The next day, they had just opened up Tuolumne Meadows. And we're driving along, and what should come running across the road but a little juvenile bear. And Cindy clips him. Little bear rolls on his back, his little feet go like this, and then he rolls back and he runs into the woods. The second sign. The third sign happened the next day. We were coming back from Hetch Hetchy, the waterfalls, and on the side of the road, I was sitting in the passenger seat. There was a coyote. So I'm here, coyote's walking, and it's not more than the distance between Phil and myself. And Coyote locks eyes. Have you ever locked eyes with a coyote? It's scary. Time stopped. I knew at that point what I was being called to do. I went back to my San Francisco apartment and immediately took my pen and paper and began to finish the opera. Because at this point, Dad had said, no one wants to hear my music, and no one will pay me for my music, and no one will play my music. So, to everyone's surprise, in about 2-3 months, I finished the libretto, and it was right around Christmas, and we had a tradition that we'd go to Neiman Marcus and get popovers. Everyone have popovers at the Neiman Marcus? So there we are, and my sister and my mother are looking at me like I'm crazy. You know there's no way he's going to take that script that you're going to give him and do anything with it other than tell you to take a hike with it. Well, to everyone's surprise, I hand Daddy the score. And what does Daddy do? He says, I'll do it. I'll do it. And in like 3-4 months, he wrote this entire opera. Well, he never looked back. After that time, he just composed. He did it for the love to use his gifts. And you could literally see in these 5 years of his life, he composed another opera, and there were art songs, and there was just a joy about him in sharing the gift that had been given to him, regardless of how it was going to be recognized by anyone else. Well, of course, God has a wonderful sense of humor. And this was maybe several months before he died. He died in December of 2006. And this was basically the summer before that. I made a wild call to a friend of ours and pitched an idea. I said, you know, you guys really should pay my father, commission both of us to write a song for you. This was actually for the Montera Tehama development. And this wonderful woman, God bless her, she said, how much do you need? I said, oh. And I got Dad. I was able to go to Dad and go, look, Dad, I just got you a commission to write a piece of music, and we're going to have a full orchestra, and we're going to go into a recording studio, and they're going to press CDs, and they're going to be given out, and everyone's going to hear your music. And I have the footage of Dad conducting for the last time with the recording orchestra. Wow. Well, God doesn't stop there. Right about the same time that he finished that, this was the atheist, agnostic father who played beautiful music every church service, but was an atheist and agnostic by his own definition. He decided that he was going to set to music. In our Catholic tradition, we have a creed, which is our set of beliefs, and it's the Nicene Creed. He set it to music. One time, we all heard it. Dad said, not good enough. 2 times. I'm still not satisfied. They all sounded beautiful by the end. 3, 4, 5, 6. We heard 6 versions of the Nicene Creed. He just was never satisfied. Well, after the morning, Daddy died, and we turned on a music box. And the music box had the music that is so much a part of the heart of my mother and father's beautiful relationship. It's from Bohème. And as soon as we walked back in the house after his body had been interred into the car, the music box stopped. I walked around, and I went to the piano. And what do you think I should see on the piano? Seventh version. That last version had been completely between him and God. Between him and God. About 2 weeks after he died, my wife and I had gone up for our little anniversary celebration up in the Point Reyes area, and we were staying in a bed and breakfast called the Eagle's Nest. And it's up in the trees, and there's a wonderful hot tub and whatnot. And I woke up that night in a lucid dream. And remember that day on Memorial when I was in the car, pouring my heart out, wanting to know, is Dad going to be okay? Well, God put a final touch on the beautiful poetry of his love. In the dream, I woke up, as you do in a lucid dream, and I walked out, and I went to where the hot tub was, and there was Daddy. There was Daddy, at the bottom of the water. And I stepped into the hot tub. I lifted his body and sat him on the side. He had the most beautiful smile, just lit up. And then he disappeared. He was in God's hands. So this afternoon, we're in my daddy's hands, but more importantly, we're in God's hands. And one last little piece of the story of how today came about, because the number of blessings and graces that have enabled this day to happen are numerous, uncountable almost. It started with a dream about 4 months ago. We haven't been at this very long. And in the dream, I saw a young man approach me, and he wanted advice about how to get involved in music. I began talking to him and felt that I didn't really have what he needed. And then the dream shifts, and I go into a lucid dream, again, where I'm fully awake, fully conscious, technicolor, everything. All the senses are working. And my dad appears again in his transfigured body, just beautiful, luminous and light, and just smiling. He didn't speak. I could hear him speak right to my heart. Right to my heart. And he was giving me the words to encourage this young man. I woke up, and I realized that the young man was my mother, represented my mother. And I realized that I had made a promise to my father that I would get his opera done, that Franck and I would find some way at some point to get the opera done. Well, I hadn't thought of the opera at that moment, but I went to my mom and I shared the dream. And I said, Mom, I'm going to go talk to Ibby at Santa Catalina, and I think we're going to try to do some of Daddy's music. I wasn't even thinking of the opera, by the way, at that point. And my mother, in her wisdom, shortly after, I think after my first conversation with Ibby, and thank you, Ibby, for your prayers and your grace, after that conversation, she says, well, why do his art songs? Let's just do the opera. Yeah. Well, here's the deal. We didn't have a dime in the bank. We had $200 I was using to run the website. And suddenly, gift after gift, grace upon grace. Roger Thompson came forward, and all of these beautiful resources, these costumes, the beautiful dancers, the singers, the technical people back there, he brought all of his wonderful friends and colleagues from so many years, and people began to pour out heart and soul. And so I just wish that the blessings of what we're sharing tonight touch your heart and invite you to consider that we have an awesome